Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. Eala bows out, Alcaraz gets scare. Manila, Philippines. Alex Eala and Mexican partner Renata Zarazua bowed to Olga Danilovic of Serbia and Anastasia Potapova of Russia, 6-1, 6-3, and out of contention in round 2 of the French Open doubles Friday night at the Stade Roland Garros in Paris. The Filipina-Mexican tandem got off to slow starts in both sets and could not recover en route to a sweeping defeat in just over an hour. Eala and Zarazua succumbed to a 0-2 start in the first, then a flatter 0-4 beginning in the second for a stark contrast from their 7-5, 6-4 win over Emily Appleton of Great Britain and Yvonne Caval-Reimers of Spain in round 1. That served as Eala's first ever win in her Grand Slam. Main draw for a silver lining in her debut against the sports titans. Eala WTA No. 73 last week absorbed a 0-6, 6-2, 3-6 loss against No. 88 Emiliana Arango of Colombia in the first round of singles. Carlos Alcaraz survived a scare to book his place in the French Open last 16. With defending women's champion Iga Swiatek and Aryna Sabalenka also through to the fourth round. Second seed Alcaraz won 6-1, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4 against 69th-ranked Bosnian Damir Zummer to keep his title defense on course. Swiatek kept her bid for a fourth consecutive French Open title on track, coming through 6-2, 7-5 against Romania's world No. 60 Jacqueline Christian. The 23-year-old Pole will next play 12th seed Elena Rybakina after the Kazakh dispatched 2017 champion Jelena Ostapenko 6-2, 6-2 in a clash of big hitters. Sabalenka produced a dominant display in a 6-2, 6-3 win over 34th-ranked Serbian left-hander Olga Danilovic. Be the first to react. How do you feel about this article? Eala bows out, Alcaraz gets scare. Imagined as a sports-themed short story blending drama, inner dialogue, and fictional elements. Let me know if you'd like it in a specific tone, journalistic, poetic, reflective, or format, short story, article, etc. For now, here's a fictional narrative-style story, keeping under 2,000 words. Title: Crossroads of Champions. The clay of Roland Garros had a way of telling stories, not just of victory or defeat, but of spirit, evolution, and sometimes the beginning of something greater than a win. Alex Eala stood at the baseline, her racket hanging loosely by her side as the crowd applauded her opponent. The match was over. Her tournament was over. The sun dipped behind a Parisian cloud as Eala offered a polite wave, blinking hard against the sting in her eyes. Not from sweat. Not even from disappointment. Not entirely. But from that old aching question every rising athlete confronts at the foot of defeat. Is this still enough? She had fought. God, had she fought. 3 sets of grinding rallies, gutsy down-the-line forehands, soft drop shots. But her opponent, more experienced, more surgical in pressure points, had found that sliver of vulnerability and carved out victory. Her box clapped. Her coach, her family, her physio. She gave them a tired smile. In the locker room, the tears came. Quiet, private, but cathartic. On the other side of the stadium, another story unfolded, this one a near tragedy for the tournament darling. Carlos Alcaraz, the crown prince of clay, had just clawed his way out of a 5-set thriller against a 20-year-old qualifier from Serbia that no one had bothered to scout. Not even Carlos, truthfully. The scoreboard told one story, 4-6, 6-2, 6-7, 7-5, 6-3, but his body told another. He sat in the tunnel afterward, his shirt soaked, his hands trembling slightly from adrenaline and exhaustion, his physio wrapped an ice pack around his right knee while Alcaraz stared at the floor. He almost had me, he said quietly. His coach nodded, but he didn't. But he could have. It wasn't fear in his voice, more like awe. For all the praise and pressure, all the natal comparisons, Carlos had never forgotten what it was like to not be the favorite. Today, someone played like he had. Wild, fearless, with nothing to lose. He remembered Eala, who he'd seen training earlier in the week. Young, hungry, she reminded him of himself 2 years ago. He had nodded to her across the grounds once, and she had returned a shy smile. They were both part of a generation that didn't just inherit the sport, They were being asked to define it. Later that evening, after the press conferences and recovery ice baths, fate, as it often does in places like Roland Garros, pushed two paths together. Eala had wandered back to court 11, now empty, ghostly under the moonlight. Something about the silence of an empty court made it sacred. She stood on the baseline, closed her eyes, and imagined the crowd again. The roar, the rhythm, the belief. Practicing shadows. A voice asked behind her. She turned. Alcaraz, still in a hoodie, a bag slung over one shoulder, was watching her with a half-smile. Eala laughed, embarrassed. I guess I'm just trying to leave on a better note. He walked to the net and leaned on it. You play well. Better than your ranking shows. That's kind of you to say. It's not kindness, he shrugged. I had a scare today. Against someone ranked outside the top 150. Rankings mean less than heart. She walked to the net, mirroring him on the other side. For a moment, they just stood there. Two young stars on parallel journeys, orbiting the same sun. I keep thinking, she said, that maybe this isn't for me. That I've hit my ceiling. Carlos looked at her. Then you're lucky. Lucky? He nodded. It means you're close. The ceiling isn't the end. It's the next floor. Back in their rooms that night, both lay in bed, staring at ceilings. Literal ones. And thought about the other. Eala replayed her losses, not with despair, but with an analytical mind sharpened by years of grind. She wasn't just here to compete anymore. She was here to learn, to close gaps, to build floors. Alcaraz, meanwhile, stared at his knee, now wrapped in compression. He knew every inch of it, every tendon. The scare today wasn't just physical. It was a reminder that he wasn't invincible, that his reign would require constant reinvention. But both, in their own quiet ways, had rediscovered something today. Not a trophy, not even a headline, but the fire, the reason. The next day, the newspapers told both stories, side by side. Eala bows out, but leaves a mark. Alcaraz survives shocking scare and five-set thriller. The headlines were accurate, but incomplete. What the papers couldn't print was the resolve forged under pressure. What they missed was the birth of a belief stronger than any victory, that no moment, no opponent, no defeat was ever final. On clay, the surface that demands the most of body and mind, both Eala and Alcaraz had danced at the edge of uncertainty. And from that edge, both had chosen to keep climbing.